Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Darazo Adams, and I am really happy to be on this platform with you, Entrepreneurial Induction for Alan Gray Orbis. This is going to be an exciting journey where we go through these 8 modules of thinking about the landscape of entrepreneurship, thinking about the mindset of entrepreneurship, thinking about, what are some of the things that we could be doing to empower ourselves to be essentially successful in this process, and that if we're failing forward as well. So I'm really looking forward to walking this journey with you, and I'm really grateful to Alan Gray Orbis for giving me the opportunity to walk this journey with you. I actually used to be employed by Alan Gray Orbis, as some of you on the webinar now may know. I was the program manager for the Gauteng regions. I worked at the University of Pretoria and WITS and UJ. And so I probably know some of the fellows who are on this call right now. That's possible, or I may not, but whoever you are, and we are going to meet each other very shortly, it's actually a real pleasure to be with you today. I'm joined by Khotso Kwete and Daniel Hampton, both from Alan Gray Orbis. And I'm going to hand over to Khotso, who's going to talk to us about the technicalities of this webinar, because of course, if you're like me, not all of us are very technologically savvy. So it's important that we all understand how the platform works, and then we can kick off with introduction. So Khotso, I'll hand over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. So I think you're really going to enjoy this this course. I always say it's going to be lit. So let's see how that goes. And then maybe just to give you, before I go into the platform, just to give you a quick overview. So the Entrepreneurial Induction is basically one of 3 venture portfolio initiatives that are designed to help fellow start businesses. So EI is just going to help you explore a specific problem solution space and your passions, and then you'll hopefully develop an idea. And then IVC basically allows you to take that idea and go and talk to customers to understand much more about what their problem is, so get much more into depth, and then hopefully come out of IVC with an idea of a prototype for a product that you want to make. And then we're going to be starting the IVC Plus Incubator, which will allow you to, build a product that you can take to market, product validated by customer interviews, etc. And then hopefully you'll all sign up for the accelerator and give some great pitches, and once you're in the accelerator, you could then figure out ways to grow your customer base and improve on your product. So IVC is going to be about 4 to 6 months, as well as IVC Plus, depending on what the business needs are for each. And then the accelerator is going to be 3 months. The EI course, which is the one we're doing now, is basically going to be about 4 months long. Cool. And then, so I'm going to quickly just show you what the platform looks like, and then I think at the end we'll just have 2 or 3 minutes to take a few questions before Rachel then kicks off the actual course. Cool. And then Daniel, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yep. Got your screen.
Perfect. So I would have sent through an email with basically 2 links. So sorry, it may have seemed like a lot of links, but basically 2 links. So one of them is the link to the online platform, campus.alangray, which is where you'll find all the content. And then the separate link that I sent you was the one for the webinar. So some of you might have been a little confused, so sorry about that. So as soon as you log in, you'll click on the Entrepreneurial Induction, and right here at the bottom, just below the grade section, is where you will find all the different modules. There are 8 modules in total, which will be done, one module ideally every 2 weeks, which should pan out to about 4 months. Sorry, I see a hand up. I'm gonna maybe just continue and then take questions towards the end. So sorry about that. So as soon as you click on one module, and just by the way, so the way that we've planned this is ideally each module should take you about 2 hours to complete in terms of preparation. So the rhythm of the course will be you go through the module, you prepare, it should take you about 2 hours or less, and then you'll discuss that module in the following section. So for example, today is basically module 0, which is just an intro. After today, you should go into the platform, start preparing module 1, so that in 2 weeks' time when we reconvene, we'll be discussing the elements of module 1. Can I just get a hint from someone that, you know, they could see everything on my screen? It's a bit quiet. It's a bit awkward for me.
I can see everything.
Perfect.
We can see your screen. I think,
Cool.
yep, there is comment space for everyone else, so if you want to put into the questions box or put your hand up if you are struggling. But yep, I think we're good.
Cool. So there's going to be about 3 to 5 sections of content that you'll be required to go through. So it's going to be basically videos or articles discussing the topics relevant to that specific module. I'll just quickly show you an example of what that looks like. So here you'll find in-page articles as an example. Here you'll find some videos that you'll be required to watch on YouTube. And an important thing is that the last 2 sections of every module will basically be 2 things. So one is the discussion forum. So you'll see here there's a question, getting your view on misconceptions of entrepreneurship. And what you'll find is we haven't posted anything as yet, but sometime between this week and next week, Rachel will basically ask a question to basically kick off a discussion. So the entrepreneurial mindset might be, for example, you know, does it make sense that you hire your friends and family or your spouse into your business? And then that will be a question that you'll see here when Rachel posts the discussion topic, and then we will all have a chance to comment. So we'll try and keep it not too heavy, but it would be great if we all engage as much as possible just to keep some interesting debate going till the next session. And then the last thing for each module is that we'll require some feedback for you. So as you know, the EI course is a work in progress, so we're constantly trying to improve the content and make it as relevant to you. So we know that there's a variety of people with different cultural perspectives, as well as different types of businesses. So some businesses are, you know, in manufacturing, some in retail, some in property. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that from a geographic point of view, we have enough coverage in terms of African versus global versus South African content. So if you do have any interesting pieces of content that you want included in the course, please let us know via the feedback form. And just please be sure to leave a link to that specific piece of content, and we'll be sure to review it and add it to the EI course. So that's basically what it looks like over 8 modules. And then I mean, module 8 is going to be a very special one because that's basically the end of EI, and then that's going to be a module that will lead you into what IVC looks like and what the various tools are that are available for those of you that want to start experimenting on very specific ideas. But I think I'll leave that section towards the end after Rachel does the intro. So I'm thinking maybe what I should do now is just take some questions. Do you mind putting your hand up if you've got a specific question about the platform before I hand over to Rachel? There we go. So Bandile's got a hand. There we go, Bandile. You're unmuted.
Hi.
Hey, Bandile.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, cool. I'm great. That's all I wanted to put my hand up for. I'm not using like a mic. I'm using a webcam, so I wasn't sure you could hear me. But yeah, that's it. That's all.
Sure. Cool. So you don't have any specific questions about the platform, yeah?
The platform. No, I think I've looked at it, and I've just wondered if there's anything we need. So we ought to have this open. Sorry, let me form the
Sorry, you're cutting.
question properly. Would we need to be following on this platform at the same time as when we're
Sure, I'm actually starting to hear you, Bandile.
doing the course? Anything sort of.
Bandile, can I ask you to maybe send a chat
Hello?
to the group? Because I'm struggling to hear
Hello?
you. You're fading in and out. So maybe you could send a question to the group, and then at some point I'll be sure to address that.
Can you hear me?
But I'm struggling to hear you. But I think what you might have said is it important to have the platform open during each class? I'm actually not too sure. I think we should play it by ear. I think ideally just have it open just in case Rachel does refer you to a piece of material.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to leave that there for now. Please pop me a question via the chat. In fact, just post it to the group. Don't post it to me specifically so we all see. And I'm going to hand over back to Rachel now.
Okay, thank you, Khotso. That was really useful. So what we're going to start off by doing is introducing ourselves. It'll be important for us to know who's on the call with us today, and that hopefully we can continue on this journey over the next few weeks together and that people don't drop off. So I'm going to ask you to take just 30 seconds, so try to make it short, to talk about what your current occupation is, but also to tell us what would be your expectations from a course of this kind. So regardless of where you are in your journey, what questions might you have about entrepreneurship apart from what you've already looked at that's already available in the course, or what you might want us to enhance based on what's on the course, and then we can see how much we can tweak and change. Of course, no promises necessarily being made, just saying we want to be cognizant of what's important to you, because as you've seen, something has already been designed, but there's always room for improvement, like Khotso said. So I'm just going to open it up, and Khotso will basically respond to the hands that are put up, but if everybody can just take 30 seconds to introduce themselves.
Okay, well, shall I start? And then, Khotso, do you want to just unmute people and maybe introduce them, and then they can do one at a time?
Yeah.
I'll start with myself. I'm Dan. If you haven't met me yet, I'm the I look after the association from the foundation side. And that's about it. I'm here to be of assistance to you as much as I possibly can. And I'm really excited about the content that's been put together. It's been quite a few people. Khotso's put a lot of work into it, Danica as well, and several other fellows that have put a lot of time into trying to make sure the content and structure of this course is hopefully going to be really useful and inspirational and really compelling. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that with all of you. And I will pass on to someone else now.
Sure, Tom, you can go ahead.
Hey there, it's Tom speaking. I'm currently working as a engineer in a small LED lighting company here in Cape Town, doing kind of design. And yeah, I was part of this course last year, which I really enjoyed the content. So yeah, my feedback has kind of gone into this one, so I'm looking forward to just to seeing how things have changed this year.
Tom, good to have you again. Do you want to go to the next person, Khotso?
Sure. Bandile, do you want to go ahead? Okay, let's try Jessica. Do you want to go ahead?
Hi everyone, my name is Jess. I graduated from the foundation last year and I currently am working in Joburg in management consulting in the telecoms industry. What attracted me to this course is two things. So I see myself starting a business at some point, but I'm struggling to kind of currently see myself as an entrepreneur, currently kind of find opportunities in that space that I find exciting. And secondly, I think I just missed some of the stimulation of the foundation in terms
Yeah,
of
can you hear me now?
speakers and content.
Hey, Bandile. Yes, we can. Jessica is just doing her intro, and then we'll jump back to you.
Yeah, so just to finish, so I really like the fact that there seems to be content of African development, learning about entrepreneurs, because I think, yeah, that's lacking for me in the working world, some kind of alternative viewpoints on things. So I'm really looking forward to just learning more in general.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jessica. Very good to meet you virtually.
You too.
Cool, Bandile. And just everyone else who's not chatting, if you don't mind just self-muting. Sure, Bandile. You can go ahead.
Cool, cool. Okay, am I clear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'll carry on anyway. I'm Bandile. Cool, yeah, sure. So I'm back.
Sure. Sorry to interrupt. Can everyone else hear? Rachel, can you hear Bandile? Is it just me?
No, I can't hear him.
I can't hear him either.
He's gotten cut off entirely.
Bandile,
But I can see he's talking, so clearly but we just can't hear him.
Bandile, maybe if you switch, because you had your webcam on originally, so maybe if you switch it off, hopefully it should not consume less data. Yeah, I don't know these IT things. I'm just wondering.
That's a good idea, actually.
You want to try again, Bandile?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sure, go ahead.
Can't hear you too.
Or maybe, Bandile, do you mind maybe typing your intro to the group chat?
Yeah.
And
Can anyone else hear
then,
me?
sure, there seems to be an interrupt. Sorry, I think your line might be a bit tricky. Do you mind maybe typing your intro to the group chat? So sorry to do it this way, but I think it might be easier. And then Rachel or I will then just read your intro. And then I think next time, hopefully, if you can find a more stable connection, that should make things better.
Yeah. Sort of, yeah. What? Yeah.
So I didn't get that.
Yeah. So I'm fine, but it.
Okay, yeah, we're really struggling. So please just type your intro into the group chat.
And my thing is in the chat. It looks like I'm only chatting to Daniel.
Oh, I see. I'm just trying to find out where you could. So there should be a thing where you could just post to the group. Or just
even if you just chat there, it'll actually go to Khutso and he can read it out. So don't worry. But I think we probably need to move along.
Sure.
So yeah, type
Sure.
your intro in and Khutso will get it and read it out.
Cool. And then I'll just quickly introduce myself as well. So I'm a fellow in residence here in the Johannesburg office. And what really excites me about the EI course is basically being able to debate all the exciting opportunities, but also the challenges and nuances of creating solutions in Africa. But also Africa is such a wide space. What does it mean to create solutions in South Africa versus other parts of SADC versus West Africa? And what I'm really hoping to engage in is a lot of debate with a lot of you. So it's going to be very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Khotso. Let's move on to the next person.
There's another person who's joined. I'm sorry, this tech is giving me trouble now. I'm trying to unmute them. So Rachel, if you can see them on the attendee list, if you don't mind unmuting them. Name 1010.
Okay, I'm just, okay, yes, name 1010, okay. I'm also having trouble.
Agent 1010, do you mind do you mind just introducing yourself? So they're self-muted.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
So anyone who isn't Bandile, Jessica, Daniel, or Rachel, or Khotso, do you mind introducing yourself? Or put up your hand, just so we know who you are.
Okay, maybe.
So there's someone, is that Daniel?
Agent 1010 will just, oh, that's actually like a 100,010. will remain mysterious for now.
Sure, but there was someone who just raised their hand, so I just quickly unmuted them if you don't mind, Rachel.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, the person who raised your hand, you've been unmuted. So, so the person who raised their hand, if you don't mind, maybe just typing into the group, so just typing a chat, and then letting us know what your question is, and then we'll just repeat it to the group. Cool. I think we could move on, Rachel.
Not mysterious. I don't need.
All right, Rachel, you can go ahead.
Okay. There was someone who was talking. I just heard a rattling. But that's fine. It looks like we may have some connectivity issues, and I think let's, in the future, all just be mindful, like Khotso said, about the strength of the lines that we're on, so that we try and minimize these disruptions. But yeah, but good to meet you, those of you who've spoken. Good to meet you, Tom and Mandile and Jessica and Agent 100,010 and Daniel and Khotso. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly run through what we're going to do over the next 8 modules, just to give a brief introduction of each. Besides what I said about having worked at Allen Gray before and being quite excited about rejoining the fellows, I'm also an entrepreneur myself. So I'm the founder of a consultancy called Narachi Leadership, and I focus on providing leadership tools to largely corporates. And I'm also working into getting to the public sector at the moment, serving clients in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Botswana, and in Nigeria, and continuing to find ways to increase that client pool, which is what all entrepreneurs are always doing. And so I'm excited both to share from this content perspective, but also just from my own personal experiences. And it'll be interesting to hear from all of you what your own experiences have been with other entrepreneurs, because I see so far from the introductions, all of you are currently working. But I know that, you know, Daniel, for the sessions that he'll join us, he's also been an entrepreneur, so I'm sure he'll have a lot to share when he does join us. But essentially, we're going to start off, of course, I think, with the most important conversation, which is, what is the entrepreneurial mindset? right? Looking at the qualities and perspectives that entrepreneurs bring into the spaces in which they're in. But I think most importantly, debunking some of the myths about what entrepreneurs do and don't do and what qualities they have and shouldn't have. Because a lot of what hinders people from getting into the entrepreneurial space, I think, is the fear and anxiety that comes from all the noise that is out there about what entrepreneurs should and shouldn't do, can and can't do. And I can certainly say, having done the work that I've done so far as an entrepreneur, there's a lot that the books tell you that's very useful, but there's a lot they also tell you that just, you know, scares you for no reason. So everything you kind of learn as you go along, and so the trick is to just take that first step. So the first module will basically help us look into some of those things using content from leading institutions across the world like MIT and Harvard, but also looking at some local content, some local inspiring entrepreneurs like Swati Martin, who is a personal friend of mine, but is also really inspiring in the work that she's done, changing the landscape of products that come out of Africa in starting a luxury tea company. So that's going to be exciting in our first week. And by the way, feel free to raise your hand at any point, and Khotso will alert me when that has happened, and then we can have the conversation as we go along. So Khotso, please just alert me when anybody puts their hand. I'm happy to be stopped at any point.
Sure.
In module 2, we're going to have what I think is a critical conversation if we're going to do what I call game-changing entrepreneurship in Africa, which is to really look at what is Africa's development trajectory, not only from a historical perspective, but also from a political economy perspective, from a technology perspective, and to ask some really critical questions about what we've inherited as a continent from our long history of pre-colonization, colonization, post-colonization, the kind of leadership that we have on the continent right now. You know, we find ourselves in quite an interesting and murky space. And so what does that mean for us as entrepreneurs? You know, for most of you, you're South African, and so there's a big question, and we will address that when we look at the South African landscape specifically, but this applies even here to say, you know, there was a promise that South Africa had, and is that promise under question or under threat at the moment, and what does that mean for entrepreneurship? I can tell you that, you know, operating from the Zimbabwean perspective, we have quite a dysfunctional government, quite a dysfunctional political economy, and being an entrepreneurship in this space presents huge challenges. I mean, a lot of you may already know that Zimbabwe currently is working on a fake currency. We have monopoly money because, you know, all our US dollars disappeared into the ether. And so it's quite a challenge figuring out how to be an entrepreneur in an African landscape that doesn't look like anything else in the world. But it also presents interesting opportunities that I sometimes think as Africans we don't really harness or think about. So if the world is going lean, for example, what do we offer to the world in terms of our learning of having to operate within lean spaces, right? Even though our leanness is usually not a choice, it's actually usually forced upon us by the environment, but so much to learn there. So that second module will look at those kinds of questions, you know, Dambisa Moyo's incredible argument around aid in Africa, Kosana Moyo's insights around leadership in Africa. So we'll have those kinds of conversations in module 2. Can everybody still hear me? I'm seeing a sign that says I might be experiencing network connection difficulties.
Yes, I can. And
all good.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
Rachel,
fantastic.
maybe, sorry, one request. Some of the participants actually asked that we see your face. I think that's a great idea, given that, you know, it's the first session. If you don't mind, maybe just click that button, the webcam button.
Sure, I'm going to do that. Hi, can you all see me now?
Yes.
Hey, we can see you.
Okay, fantastic. So, module 3, the future of global growth, society and business, looking at what the drivers of global growth are and answering some of the questions around you know, the key conversations around those drivers and where we situate ourselves again in that space. I think connectedness, a conversation around connectedness and networks in Africa will be really important. I think when we talk about global growth, we have to necessarily start at growth within Africa itself and what our own ecosystem looks like. And so we're going to have, I think, quite a difficult conversation here, figuring out a landscape that is really, in many ways, dataless, right? So in Africa, there's a huge problem of data and a huge problem of really understanding sometimes what the ecosystem looks like. So we'll delve into that topic to try and get a better understanding of it. I mean, we cannot underestimate the power of ecosystems. I'm often intrigued by the case study of the PayPal mafia, if you've heard of it, which is, you know, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and those guys who basically were the initial founders of PayPal, but have literally taken over in many ways Silicon Valley and are running a lot of businesses within that space and are worth billions in combination. And sort of thinking about how do we also create such an ecosystem for ourselves? How do we figure it out so that we become change makers and game changers in the sense of growth within Africa and then into the globe as well. So, and I think, and again, when I think of that, I also think about Swati Martin, who I'm going to try to actually get to join us on this call, because her products are now being sold, you know, across the world, including in Harrods as an example, which is a very difficult space to get into, and in some of the 5-star hotels across the world. And to, you know, sort of say, how did she create an ecosystem of support for herself that actually allowed her to be that successful as an entrepreneur in such a short space of time? So that will be module 3, and I'm sure lots of questions will come up from there. And then, of course, growth in Africa will be module 4, looking specifically at South Africa. And I think I've already preempted a little bit of the questions that we'll talk about there. But, you know, I'm reminded when I think of South Africa and where it is right now of Ram Emanuel's famous quote when he became the chief of staff for Barack Obama, when Barack Obama just took over the presidency in the US. And as you know, Barack Obama took over when there was the global financial crisis that had just begun to unfold. And Ram Emanuel's quote, which became world famous, was, you know, never put to waste a good crisis. And I think the role of entrepreneurship and leadership is to think about, when there's a crisis at hand, you know, what is the opportunity that then lies therein for those of us who are change makers. So I think this will be a very interesting conversation, especially given where South Africa is at the moment. And it will be interesting to see when we do have module 4, where we will have gone with the conversations that are happening right now in South Africa. And of course, McKinsey & Company's South African Growth Report, McKinsey & Company always leaders in the entrepreneurial and business space. So there's a lot we can learn from reading their reports for sure. McKinsey & Company is also my old employer, and also Kotzos. So we can share some personal stories about that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a quick second? So
Sure.
we found out who that secret agent was.
Okay, secret agent, who are they?
So it's so their name is Mpogama. So I'm actually seeing here under questions, and they are a first-year candidate attorney. Ooh, we've got a lawyer.
Yay.
And they have not yet started a business, but they're looking to do so in future. Welcome, Mpo. And so sorry about the connection issues. I think next time, once we all try and find a more stable line, we could just reintroduce you and just get your voice out there again.
Yeah. Thank you, Mpo, for joining us. Welcome, and sorry that we couldn't figure out how to connect you initially, but thank you for joining. So let me move on to module 5. And like I said, feel free to stop me at any moment, but we'll have room for questions at the end as well. So module 5, growth in Africa, opportunities in the rest of the continent. I mean, when I see this topic, the first thing that comes to mind, some years ago, I was working at Yale University, and we were hosting some of the Yali Fellows. Some of you will have heard of the Yali program. And I had invited South Africa's leading branding and marketing expert. Her name is Donna Rachelson. If you haven't heard of Donna Rachelson, you should look her up. She's really, really good in the branding and marketing space. So I invited her to come over to Yale to give a branding and marketing session to these Yali fellows who are coming from 16 African countries. So, you know, we started off this branding and marketing session, but after a while, we started to notice some discomfort with the participants in the room, and we sort of wondered why this discomfort was happening. And slowly but surely, they all started putting up their hands and saying, you see, this branding thing that you're talking about is really quite dangerous, because in our African countries, if you brand yourself and if you become visible, the government is going to come after your business. And before you know it, you might actually find yourself out of business. So the more secret you are, the better. And I thought it was quite a fascinating insight, because you often don't think about that when you're in a space like South Africa, where there's much more free reign, I think, to an entrepreneur and to do what you need to do. And so the question here is, if you're thinking about growing into Africa, what do you need to know? If you're going into Nigeria, for example, bribes are a big conversation in Nigeria. Patronage is a big conversation in Nigeria. So, you know, how do you remain ethical as a leader while growing in the African space? Of course, if you grow into Rwanda, which is much different, much more ethical, much more transparent, you know, you can register your business in half a day. You know, that's a completely different landscape. So what does that look like, and how do you think about that? So that will be module 5. Will be an interesting conversation, again, looking at the McKinsey & Company Africa Growth Report, which will be important. Module 6, how to think about building a product. For one, you know, I think for me, this module speaks to really being present and reflective as an entrepreneur, because often I think the answers to entrepreneurship are much closer to us than we assume, but often we're not thinking about what are the things that I'm seeing around me for myself, and in the next module for others, that allows me to really be relevant as an entrepreneur, to really solve a problem. And therefore, in that sense, again, be game-changing, which is a term you will hear me using again and again, because I am all about game-changing. And so, you know, as you think about creating solutions, how do you start being present with your own space and where you are at, to notice the things that you're using and how you could improve them to actually create some sort of an intervention or some sort of a product that actually changes the market. So we'll do a lot around that conversation. Module 7 takes that conversation to the next level, which is solutions for people, for business, and for society. Again, being extremely conscious and present with where we are as Africa. You know, I often say, when I encounter young Africans, I hear two stories from them, or I hear two thought patterns. The one thought pattern is a very sort of historical looking thought pattern that says, you know, the world has done us wrong, and colonialism did us wrong, and the situation we find ourselves makes it difficult for me to do A, B, C, and D, and E. And it's a very reactive approach to even thinking about solution making. And the second mindset I come across is this famous Africa Rising mindset, which is largely based on GDP numbers, but not necessarily looking at where the average African is at. And both those mindsets, I often say, are dangerous to the spirit of innovation, because the one, you know, the latter, which is the Africa Rising one, is extremely euphoric, and I think sometimes inflates the possibilities that we currently have based on where we are now. And the former one, I think, also takes away credit from the ingenuity that we could have to really resolve the issues of the past and use them to our advantage to create something really meaningful and powerful as entrepreneurs. And so for me, I'm always looking to say, how can we as young people be in the middle ground that allows us to say, we're not yet there, we're not yet in the Africa Rising future, and neither are we in the past. We have so much opportunity with education, with technology, with networks, not only across Africa, but across the world. How could we leverage those so that we can be really, again, game-changing as entrepreneurs, because we are really looking deeply at the issues as they are, not from a historical lens and not from a sort of a futuristic lens. So being present right now. So the solutions for people, business, and society is really about looking at how can you position yourself to build something that could be valuable to Africans. And of course, because we are a landscape of so many problems, it's an opportunity for multiple opportunities, right, and multiple solutions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well in Module 7. And then Module 8, I think Khotso has already spoken to when he talked about the IVC. And so, yeah, so that will basically bring us to the end of the modules of the program. And hopefully by that point, you will feel that you have had a rich experience that allows you to be, as an entrepreneur that can really leave a mark, whether it's in a small or a big way, but that it also makes the entrepreneurial journey accessible, the entrepreneurial possibility, sorry, accessible to you. It doesn't feel as overwhelming as it was to me, certainly, and that you kind of figure out what your first step could be. So, you know, I heard Jessica say, for example, she sees herself starting a business at some point. You know, I hope that basically what this does is to say, to help you think about what is my first step going to be, and keep pushing both myself, Khotso, Daniel, as we are on this call, when we bring in speakers, push them to really answer that question of, based on what I'm thinking of doing, what could be my first step? Because we want this to be as practical as possible. The theory is great, but we want it to be really practical as well. And then, like Khotso said, between the modules, we'll have a conversation online on the platform, and hopefully that will allow us again to remain stimulated in the time that we are not actually meeting virtually. So I think that's it as an introduction. Let me stop and ask if there are any questions or any insights, and to hear from people based on now what I've said, if there's anything you'd like to see added to this.
Sure, I just thought, sorry, this is Khotso. I thought that, Daniel, if you're still online, maybe it would be a great idea just to give a 2-minute overview of some of the additional things that they might be doing in IVC and IVC Plus, just to get people a bit more excited about what follows on after EI.
Right.
Yeah, sure. So just very briefly, what we've been developing is an online platform that allows you, working together with a coach who you're paired with as you start the journey, to set a very specific journey on the platform that is specific to your particular business idea. So what we found last year was that doing a one-size-fits-all, when we got down to it, really didn't work out very well. When we had people running ideas through it as varied as kind of an app that sends you a social alarm message to wake you up in the morning, to a biotech innovation that was likely to take 2 years just to kind of get through the basic paperwork and to be able to even create a prototype to test. So what this allows us to do is set an individual journey for each business that you do in conjunction with a coach. The first part of it is really just validating. So all it's doing is getting you to the point where you have a design for your product. So you don't need to have a product or service yet, but it needs to be reasonably well articulated product and service and a possible business model. And hopefully that's quite a quick process for everyone. Then the next stage, which at this point we're calling IVC Plus, is more of an incubator model. So what you get here is you retain the services of your coach. You get space in an incubator environment, either in Johannesburg or Cape Town, and access to grant funding from E2 to build this product. So the whole idea here, and this can run between 3 months and a year, is that you're now actually developing a product, whatever it may be, and taking it to market. And then the next stage is the accelerator. So once you've got a product, you've already sold it, you've proven there's a market, that's then when you enter the accelerator. So this whole process can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months to progress through, depending on your business. But essentially what we're aiming to do is provide a framework and a structure that is really flexible enough to deal with any kind of business. Nothing is cookie cut. We've got an exceptional group of coaches on board. Yeah, it's trying to provide as much support as we can to get you from idea through to a real business. Cool.
Great, thank you, Daniel. That's very useful. So any questions, any thoughts, any insights, epiphanies, they're all welcome. Wow, does that mean everybody's clear, everybody's happy? Maybe let's just hear some reflections. How are people feeling about what the content looks like so far?
Hey Rachel, it's Tom here.
Hi Tom.
Hey, yeah, I liked what you said about kind of first steps and focusing on the practicalities of if you've got an idea, what is my first step? And yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of drawing that out of this whole process.
Great. Fantastic.
Hey, Rachel. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to quickly step out the room for 2 minutes. I just need to hand something over to somebody. I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Sure. Thanks, Khotso. Okay, Jessica. Jessica, I've unmuted you.
Okay, fantastic. No, I just want to say that it's sounding really good. Just a kind of, I suppose, a question. Is there going to be also an angle? I think there is, but just to clarify, if you don't have a product idea, so if you're coming into this with just the kind of you broaden your entrepreneurial mindset and learn a lot, is that also fine? So by the end of it is the idea to kind of have your vision of what you want to do, or is it more kind of this EI just developing entrepreneurial thinking, etc., etc.?
Can you just repeat the last bit of your question, Jessica? I missed that. So I heard, is it just about product development, or?
Yeah. So, or is the aim also to just broaden your horizons regarding entrepreneurial thinking, etc.? So it's not that. Okay. So it's not necessarily that now at this point you need to have an idea or a product.
No, I mean, Daniel, that's correct, right? I think this is a journey for anyone who's a graduate of the fellowship, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning stages of starting to think about where you fit and kind of what would make a good idea for you, what your passions are, to kind of start looking at which niche you should be aiming towards. The IBC is where you want to be once you've got an idea that you're working to, that you're actually saying, okay, now's the time, I'm going to turn this into a business. But this is far more early on beginning stage thinking about where you should start looking for an idea.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah. Great.
So I think sorry, Rachel.
Go ahead.
I think Mpo raised their hand, Mpo Gama. So I'm going to try and unmute you.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Mpo, if you can't speak, you can go ahead and ask your question. Cool. I think Mpo might have been the one who said they are excited to meaningfully engage with the content. I'm looking here at the question.
Okay.
Cool. You can go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. No, I think I was just going to say to Jess and everybody who's on the call that I think for me this is about demystifying entrepreneurship, because the more of us who can see it as accessible and possible, I think the higher the opportunity that we can really change the landscape of our continent and even of our localities. So I'm excited to have anyone on board who may be remotely thinking about entrepreneurship, hasn't really thought about it just yet, or is already starting to think about what the idea could be. I think everybody will benefit equally. Yeah, that's all I was going to say. What's on? Is there anybody else with their hand up?
I can't see anyone at this stage. Some people might be asking questions, but this questions interface isn't so great, so I'm struggling to see.
Okay. I can see. Please unmute me. Please unmute me. Is that recent?
That was me from earlier today. That's not recent.
Oh, okay. 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 So it's going upwards. Yeah. So I don't see any.
Yeah. No questions on my side.
Any new questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. You can go ahead.
Okay. So I think then that's it for this week. I mean, Khotso and Daniel, tell me if there's anything else we should go through. Let me just look at my notes really quickly. We've talked about the interaction between sessions. I think just in terms of timing, we're going to start at 6:30. I mean, today we're 5 minutes late because we were just still looking at the platform and trying to get everyone on. But starting 2 weeks from now, we'll start at exactly 6:30, whether there are people or not. We will just begin the conversation. So if you come in a little bit later and tell your friends as well, they'll just have to join the conversation as it's already started. We're trying to be respectful of people who do come onto the platform on time. So that's just something to note. But apart from that, looking forward to engaging. Please make sure that you actually do look at the material. Like Khotso said, it doesn't take too much time. It's 2 hours. For some of you who are faster readers, it might even take a shorter time. But essentially, I've watched some of the videos already and read some of the content, and it's riveting stuff. I mean, it's really, really good. And like Daniel said, Khotso and his team really did a good job to come up with some really good material here. As we're going through our discussions on the platform, on campus.allengray, if you think of some material that comes to your mind, that a book that you've read, an article you've come across, a video you've seen, please also just post it on that platform and say, hey guys, for next week you might want to consider looking at this as well. And of course that will be in people's free time. That will be extra reading. We're not going to make that compulsory, but please share as much as possible, because the wisdom, the collective wisdom amongst us is what's going to make us all really, really, really exceptional at this process. Daniel and Khotso, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just wondering, if people are still keen just to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes. I was just wondering, I'd be curious to find out what sort of problem and solution spaces or opportunities that people are interested in. So maybe it might be worth each person just giving us 2 or 3 lines of like, what kind of space are you interested in? And then of course, if anyone objects, you could just put your hand up, and then I will see your note, and then I'll understand that maybe today isn't a great time for you to share that. But so I don't know, Rachel, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. I'm fine. I'm fine. If people want to have the conversation, that's perfectly fine.
Sure, and I think I'll maybe just quickly start on my side. So I'm very interested in the intersection between media and technology, and I think media has the power for us Africans to really shape what our identity is and continuously redefine it. I think that's been a very big gap. But I think one of the other challenges as well is technology can help just make that process cheaper to allow us to continue to create really high quality content. Cool.
Great. Great, Khotso.
Let's see. Let me go to the list of attendees. Maybe I muted some people by accident. Sure, anyone can go ahead. No one else is muted by me. let's see, someone just asked a question. I'm going to quickly just read it out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Bandile says he looks forward to the course. It's very comprehensive. Bandile says, can we see him? Not sure what see means.
Maybe on his webcam? No.
Sorry, I think another question just came in. It says, okay, I'm going to answer the question then. Okay, go ahead, Bandile. You can answer the question via the chat, and then I'll just read it loud. And I think while Bandile is typing, maybe someone else could go ahead and just let us know what they're interested in, what space. I think there's
I'll
nobody.
jump in with what I've been thinking about of late. I'm generally fascinated by public transport and feel there is so much value still to be given, particularly in an African context, for how the population moves, and particularly in cities that are now getting outrageously over-trafficked.
Right.
I think, and with public transport systems that have not been really well developed as European and American cities are in terms of the infrastructure in place. So what technology is doing now and the potential that has to revolutionize public transport in African cities, that's what I've been pondering lately.
That's a great subject matter, Dino. Please solve that problem for all of us. That's really good.
Cool. I'm just going to quickly read Bandile's. So Bandile says, I am looking into the NGO space, especially in terms of economic development. I especially want to amplify grassroots economic activism and bring it to a wider audience. Be interesting to unpack that. Thank you, Bandile. Especially with the fees must fall. I just think there's so much excitement and I just think impatience as well to create change. So this is a very, very important topic. Thank you for that. And
yeah, and it's interesting to hear a solution-based approach as well. That isn't just raising the problem, but also coming up with a solution, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jessica just raised her hand up, so I'm gonna. Jessica, you can unmute yourself and then talk.
I would say what I'm interested in the space of entrepreneurship is how policy from kind of a government perspective can be used in a more entrepreneurial way. And I think this is probably why I'm kind of struggling to conceptualize how I can be a part of it. And I'd say that the two areas that I'm really interested in are prison reform. I think prisons are kind of run very badly, but more than that, I think the whole system kind of needs to be rethought. And I'm also very interested in young child development, like from ages of kind of 1 to 4, what kind of education and kind of stimulation are we giving kids, and how could we improve that in like a very entrepreneurial way? So it's a very kind of varied thoughts, but those are two areas that really interest me.
Wow. Jessica, just as a thought, I was in the airport just yesterday, and if you go to the business, I think it's the business section, I don't know if you read a journal called American Science. Do you read that at all? Hello? Jessica?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me? I lost my audio connection. I think it's back now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Have you come across a journal called American Science? Okay, I'll keep talking because maybe your audio is not working properly. But American Science is a journal I actually just recently came across in exclusive books, and the title for the journal this month is actually preschool education. So you might want to go pick that up. I picked up, they had 2 of them in the store. The other one was on the science of genius and the science of creativity. So I picked that one out. That was more compelling for what I do. But you might want to go pick that up and read. I found the journal incredible. It's the world's leading scientists basically talking about how you can unlock potential. So I think you'd find that really useful even as a thought starter for what you're thinking about.
Great. I think somebody has a question. I'm going to quickly just scroll down and read that. Give me a quick second. Oh, I think this is from Mpogama, the ex-secret agent. So he says, I'm currently interested in the legal education space. I'm interested in making the basic legal concepts to be known by the average person on the street. I'm not really sure how that could be turned into an entrepreneurial endeavor, but I'm definitely looking at that space. Yeah, Lord knows, I think we need a lot of that. People aren't really aware of what their rights are and how to solve problems in the legal space, so that would be great. And how to make it affordable as well.
Yeah, interesting. The legal clinic space, very interesting. Great.
And Tom, what about you, fellow technologist?
Hey, yeah, so this last year I've been working my first job as a design engineer, and I've been kind of thinking on the side of if I wanted to start my own business, I would go the software route, just because the price of the cost of trying to manufacture physical objects is really, really high. But what I've realized in working in this company in the last year is that if you my initial thought was that manufacturing in South Africa is not really viable, because you kind of think that a lot of other places in the world you won't be able to compete with the likes of China and India on products. But this company I'm working for, we find that we are able to compete because it's a high quality product. And the cost of manufacturing is not actually that high in South Africa, but as a startup or something, it is really high if you don't have the capital initially. So just one thing I've been thinking about recently is just how to kind of bring manufacturing costs down for startups, that are trying to manufacture physical objects, but manufacture them locally. So that's just something I've been thinking about recently.
And maybe just to add to that, Tom, I think that's a very interesting topic. And I know that some entrepreneurs are now turning to the Shenzhen ecosystem in China to create the prototypes and then import them back into whichever countries they come from. But also you'll see in the section regarding South Africa's growth opportunities, there's some interesting manufacturing opportunities, but more for high value goods, especially in the automobile space. So it's going to be interesting to explore that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's
okay. That's everyone, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I mean, if we could give the energy and the stimulation on this platform for all of these things to come to life, I think we'll have won. So thank you, everyone, for sharing. And I think that's it for the week. Let's reconnect on the platform. I've certainly got some ideas of things I could post or a question that I could post that could be useful for all of us to start a conversation. And then we can take it from there. The next session, Khotso, can you give us the date?
Sure. So I'm just going to quickly go to my calendar.
Sure.
So the next session should be on the 19th.
Okay. So Wednesday, the 19th of April, we meet again right here at 6:30.
Yes. And so for any of your friends that missed this session, we will post this webinar, the recording online as well.
Mm.
So please give them FOMO.
Yes, do lots of that. For sure. FOMO. Okay, shall we wrap it up?
Sure. Thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate this. This was fantastic.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
We look forward to the debates.
Yes.
It's going to be crazy and fun.
The enriching conversations. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. So have a good rest of the week, and we'll speak again soon.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Rachel. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.